I don't know. Carly Simon's song "Anticipation" just keeps coming into my mind. Most of you could care less about Carly Simon in 1960s music, but anticipation. Oh, I shouldn't have even started singing, but I did. I left you in anticipation in episode number 119. I started talking about turning your new members class into a Great Commission class, and I gave you a lot of the background behind it, but I didn't get into the how. And that's the reason that I have a second episode on turning your new members class into a Great Commission class. And this is part 2. Both episodes are brought to you by Belay, our friends at Belay, our productivity experts, our remote staffing experts, the people who will take care of all the busy work while you just do what you have been called to do and let somebody else take on the role of assistant, bookkeeper, a multitude of tasks. Like I said, at Church Answers, we've had a Belay person since we began, and we still do today. So, by the way, Belay has a download for you. The download is called 4 Costly Financial Mistakes for Churches. It's worth reading. So download that just for you who are part of the Church Answers podcast. Simply text Thom at 55123. Text THOM at 55123. So I gave a little bit of the background. I'm not going to repeat it. If you want to go back and hear the background of this, go to episode 119. But in summary, I was raving about the churches that have new members classes that establish expectations, that provide information, and that move toward assimilation. I talked about all those. I talked about some books that have been written about that. Sam Rainer's book called The 7 Basics of Belonging is one. My book, I Am a Church Member, is another. And then I also mentioned, and you can just go back and listen to this episode, Simple Church as another book that is related to this. And so just check out some of the books that we have that are connected to this. Back in 1997, though, I wrote a book called High Expectations. It was kind of one of the first books in this genre many, many years ago. It's dated now, but still kind of some foundational information. So here's the issue. I've been advocating for 20 years now that every church should have some type of entry point class. An entry point that before someone becomes a member, you will provide them information, you will set the expectations, and you will put them on a path of assimilation. So many churches are now doing that. I saw a lot of resistance 15 years ago, 20 years ago, but now many churches are willing to have this new members class because they don't want people coming in where the church doesn't mean anything more than another organization, a civic organization, even worse, a country club. And so these new members classes have been vital in the health of the church. But what I've only discovered in recent months, probably within the last year, I'd have to go back and recall the first time I saw this, is that some very gifted pastors have taken their new members class and they have turned it into also a Great Commission class. Now, what I mean by that, they did not only prepare them for membership internally, they set the expectations for what that member was to do externally. There have been very few instances where I've seen a high degree of intentionality in new members classes. Now, I've been a part of some churches that have new members classes, and they say you should reach people with the gospel. You should go. You should do that. But they don't have an explicit mechanism to do so. The difference in these classes, these new members classes, that most of them were only around 2 hours long. The difference in this is in the new members class, they prepared you to be a Great Commission Christian. Now, what did they do? Well, let's look at two common things. They were not uniform. Let me say that. There were differences all over the place. So what one did, another may not do the same. So let's look at these two. So the first thing they did was to give the new members an easy way to share their faith. They trained their members on how to share their faith. My favorite still today is the 3 circles. That gospel presentation, I actually have it on an app, and it's what I use if I need to share visually what it means to be a Christian. And many times I just talk about my faith and I don't have to get any type of diagrammatic vision of evangelism out. But the three circles has been my primary tool that I have used. Many churches are actually training their people to use the three circles methodology. There's an app called Life on Mission. You can check that out at any of the places that provide apps, whether it's Apple or any of the other app providers. And you can look at Life on Mission, and it has that three circles. So one of the things they do is they train them how to use that. It's very simple. I learned how to use the three circles as a methodology of evangelism in about 7 or 8 minutes, because all the information is there. So that's one thing that they're doing. They're giving them a tool where if they encounter someone who is not a follower of Christ, they will have that tool available immediately. I had not seen this in new members classes until recently, where they were actually providing every new member some kind of tool. Now, I know there are a lot of evangelism methodologies that are available. Some are app-based, some are track-based, some are memorization-based. I understand that. But in the short time of a new members class, the ones that I saw that were very effective were using the three circles from the Life on Mission app. So that was one thing that they did. They provided an explicit way and trained people in a very short time within the context of the new members class how to share the gospel. Second thing they did, they equipped their members to keep a heart or a culture of evangelism as a part of their life in the church. Let me say that again. They equipped these people to keep evangelism as a part of their heart or lives as a member of the church. In other words, they not only wanted to give them a tool where they could share their faith, but they also wanted to equip them to be motivated spiritually to continue to share their faith. Now, one of the great things that was encouraging to me is that some of these churches actually used our methodology called the Hope Initiative and the book that is a part of it, which is a 30-day jump start to evangelism called Pray and Go. There was one church recently that was actually training people how to use three circles and then giving them the book and said, now, what we want you to do over the next 30 days is just read each of the days that you see in this book and answer the challenge. It'll only take you about 10 minutes per day. And they said that approach in a new members class has been revolutionary in the spiritual growth of their entire congregation. I had not thought of it. I think it is an incredible thing where you can take as little as 10 or 15 minutes. Some churches do even shorter, to provide your church members some type of tool, some type of way that they can share their faith and maybe where they can keep their hearts softened to sharing the gospel on an ongoing basis. Remember what I said about new members classes? A new members class should prepare a new member to, first of all, know everything that they need to know at that moment about the church, information. Second of all, to tell them the minimal roles they should have as a church member, expectation, and then to put them on a path where they are doing that ministry and becoming a part of the church and the groups in the church, assimilation. And why not? Why not, within all of those expectations, assimilation, and information, say, and this is what we want you to do. We want you to be able to share your faith, and we want you to be able to keep a warm heart for telling people the good news of Jesus Christ. I bet I can come back to this in a year, maybe in 2025, and talk about it again, and we'll see even some more developments as more and more churches are turning their new members class into a Great Commission class. This has been very helpful for me because I learned from the churches. I hope my communication of what I've learned to you has been helpful as well. Thank you, as always, Belay, for being our sponsor. Thank you for just providing ministry through the people that you provide for churches and other organizations. And thank you, listeners, wherever you're listening on your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and review, or if you're watching me at YouTube, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Thank you all for being here. I love this information, and I love sharing it with you. Hope I'll see you in the next episodes.